Hello everyone, welcome to tutorial 6. In this tutorial, we are going to talk about how to work with tables and columns. Some of the objectives for this chapter would be that we are going to look at the structure of a web table. We are also going to be able to create table headings and data cells into the tables. Also, we will learn how to apply CSS styles to our table. We would also be able to create cells that span multiple rows and columns. Also add caption to our table. We would also learn how to create row and column groups and apply style to row and column groups. Also, we will learn about how to create a multi-column layout. So first, let's look at the structure of a web page. Of a web table, sorry. So in this case, you can see the first table is made up of header cells. So we have these as header cell, and we have data cells. So these are the data cells. These four data cells, they are spanned into 2 rows each, as you can see. So this is our data cell is split into two rows each. And then in here we have the table caption. So basically, the first part we are going to learn about how to create something like this. So this is a simple table, but it has few features that we are going to actually work with and create these. So first, the header cells. We're going to also learn about these basically data cells. And then we are going to actually learn about how the data cells are spanning into other rows. And then we are going to also learn about table caption. So when we are looking at the web table, basically it is an HTML structure that it will have multiple table rows with each row containing one or more table cells. The cell can actually also have HTML elements, such as you saw in previous PowerPoint slides, headings, paragraphs, navigation list, inline images. So a table element contains a collection of table rows, and we can use the TR to show that. So that's the table row element. So a table contains cell within each row, as we said, and the size of table is basically defined by number of table rows and number of cells within that rows. So the general structure of the web table, you can have the table, opening bracket table, and then you will use the TR. And then in here you put the table cell, and of course you have to close this, and then you open this tag TR, and then you have the table cell, and you can close it. And then at the end you have to close your table. So this is basically the structure of the web table that you are going to have. Let's say, for example, you want to create a table that will show a schedule. So in this example, this is the example we have basically a table name that is going to be schedule. And in there, you are going to have, of course, you're going to have your opening marks with table. So you have the table element marks, and then you have basically the TR element marks, and for each table row that you will have. And of course you have to close your table. So web tables, they support 2 types of table cell. One is basically the header cell, that the header cell will contain content placed at the top of column or beginning of a row. And by default, the display text in there is bold, and basically the texts are centered horizontally. And you can mark using the TH. So that's for the table header, for the header cell. You can actually mark it by using the TH tag in there. And then you have the data cells. Data cells, they basically contain the content within the column or rows, and by default they are going to be displayed as text, and they are going to be displayed as unformatted text that's aligned to the left within the cell. So you can mark that using the TD element rather than the TH. TH, you're using it for the header cell. So this is the how we are going to use the table header cells. So you can see all of these, the TH, you are using it for the header. So the time, and the days, Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, Friday, they're all bold and they are all centered by default. And again, you have a header cell here that starts from 6, 6:30. These are all header cells. And here you have the data cells. So for the data cells, we said we are using TD, and then the content are not going to be bolded or anything like that. So it's basically unformatted text. And you can put these national news, these are all of world news. All of these are basically the data cells. And of course, you close it with the table as well. We can also add table border by using the CSS. So we want to give it some style to our table, so we need to use the CSS. The CSS border property is used to add borders to any part of a table. Border needs not to be the same style. And two style choices for the borders are separated borders and as well as collapsed borders. So let's look at it. So this is an example of the separate borders. As you can see, each cell is separated, and this is the example of the collapsed border. So we said we have two types, separate and collapse. So basically we can the syntax would be border collapse column type, and that type could either be separate or collapse. It depends to what you want. The separate border model set the spacing between the borders using border spacing. So you can also have a syntax border spacing column value, and that value is basically the CSS unit of measure. So the collapsed border models, borders from adjacent elements are basically merged together to be able to form a single border. Then borders are joined to combine these features. Combining adjacent border with different width, style, or color is actually very complicated to do that. There are 5 rules to reconcile the difference between the adjacent border. If either border has a style of hidden, the collapsed border is basically hidden. Border style of none is overwritten by other border styles. And the style of wider border takes priority over the narrower border if neither border is basically hidden. Another rule is that double borders have higher precedence followed by solid, dash, ridge, outset, groove, and inset. So you basically should follow these rules when you want to apply the borders style. If borders differ only in color, precedence is given to the borders. Precedence to the border in decreasing orders are basically borders around individual table cell, borders for table row, borders for group, for columns, for column groups, or borders around the entire table. So these are basically the precedence that the border would take. So that's what basically you can follow. In this example, as you can see on the left, the separate table, the separate borders model, the border around the table is basically hidden, and the border around each cell in blue is shown in here. But in the collapsed border style, though, the border around the table is basically hidden, takes precedence over the table blue borders for individual cell. So that's the difference that you can see in reconciling hidden borders. So let's look at spanning rows and columns. What does the spanning cell mean? Single cell that occupies more than one cell, row, and column. It can be created by adding row span or column span attributes to the either TD for the cell or the TH header elements. Spanning starts in the cell with the row span, or again also it can happen with the column span attributes, and it can cover the cell in the right and also below the initial cell. So this is how we write it. Row span equals rows, where row is the number of rows that the cell can occupy, and in the column span you have again column span column. That's the syntax for it. And then the COLS or columns is the number of columns that the cell can occupy. So let's see. So this is a great example in here. You are spanning several columns with a single cell. As we said, the syntax column span equal the number of cell. We can put in this case, we want to set each cell a span to 7 columns within its rows. So we are putting 7 in there. But it could be 3, it could be 2. It depends on how many you want to put in there. This is also row spanning cells. 4 table cells in the first row. Only 3 table cells are required for the second and also third row. So this is basically the resulting table, as you can see when you put it in there. So this is, we are using 3 in there. So basically this row span, this cell spans 3 rows together, as you can see in there. And the rest is like normal, like this. So let's look at the table captions. Basically, they are another part of the basic table structures, and they are also being marked using the caption, content, and then caption. So this is the syntax for it. So what is the content? The content contains within the caption. So this is the content that is going to have within the caption that you're going to put. So it is listed immediately after the table tag, and only one caption is allowed per table. Inherit the text style that is associated with the table. So the text style of that table caption would be whatever you have it in the table. By default, captions are placed above the table. To specify the location, you can use the caption side property and then put the position in there. This position could be either top or bottom, so you have the choices. But by default, it's going to be placed above the table. So this is an example for the table caption. So again, it's right after the table. You can put the caption and then the content that you're going to put in the table caption. And you can see, you can put the caption side, the location of it, if you want it to be at the bottom or somewhere else. So in this case, you place the caption at the bottom of the table, and you can also align the text. So the right aligns the caption text to the right. And again, if you want to change any other thing, you can put also in there. Okay, so this was for the first part of this lecture. In next lecture, we are going to look at rows and column groups.